I think that's one thing I'm really inspired by you is like it seems like on the outside, outside looking in,
On the outside.
you have so much energy to be everywhere, omnipresent on social media. Seems like you get so much done. You don't get, it seems like you don't get tired like me. Like, dude, I always have to rest during the day. I feel like old, you know? So,
Yeah, fair.
but that's something I really respect about you. You just get so much done and yeah, all that.
Honestly, I am driven by, well, the excitement of projects, but also being omnipresent so that none of my exes and none of my enemies could ever avoid me on social media. And I'm just everywhere all at once, all the time. You can't hide from me. If you've dated me once, I'm there forever.
Oh, man. Kind of joking, but kind of serious.
Spite.
Damn.
Yeah, driven by pure spite and pettiness.
Damn. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should be driven by like...
you just find what drives you and just full send.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome back to Feel Good Lab, the podcast where we explore the intersection between personal growth and career success and all the good stuff that happens in between. Today, I have a very, very special guest. I met him through one of my cohorts that I paid a lot of money for, but he's worked with a ton of major YouTubers and creators over the years, both on the content side, but also have helped them close really high ticket sales. He's also an educator and a creator himself, and he actually started in pharma. Lots to explore today in this episode. So I want to welcome Kevin Yee. Hello.
Wow. What a wonderful and flattering intro. I've never had someone say such kind words. Yeah.
There were so many other things that I could have included in there, but I'll let you tell your ABG wheeling stories yourself.
My ABB stories and all that. My wannabe ABB. I don't think I could ever be really ABB, to be honest with you. But yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, people used to say to me that they identify me as an ABG, and I would be shocked. I'm like, really, me? Are you sure? I don't think, other than liking bubble tea, I really don't fall into that category very much.
You never, like the first time we met, actually, funny enough, we met on a sales call of all things, but you never gave off that ABG vibe to me ever. Like you come off as very wholesome, and then you show me your tattoos. I'm like, oh, she's an artist, right? She's into art and stuff, and she's a creative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
It's funny. We did meet on a sales call. He made me buy like a product that was several $1,000s.
I wouldn't stop bothering her.
So yeah, clearly he's doing something right because it worked.
It's that ABB Riz, on the sales calls.
Yeah. Your course should actually just be teaching people how to Riz people and not high ticket sales.
Dude, I would love that. I would love doing that. Although I'm not like the best at it. I just like, I don't know about you, but I love studying like communication, how like implicit, explicit
psychology.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
Totally. I'm the same. I love reading about it. I love learning about it. I don't think I'm the best at it, but honestly, you should just start your own niche and just have it be like business Riz. Like that should be what you teach, because it's honestly really important, right? You need it to get a raise, to sell stuff, to network. And I feel like you would be good at teaching all of that, and then just putting that funny spin to it would be hilarious. I would definitely buy that.
I don't know. I think it's like really, I think over the years, I've just really learned how to be a trusted advisor, and just like, unlike a lot of people, I actually care about people. And like, I try to listen and try to help people best I can. It's always been like a major value of mine, I guess, on my end,
Yeah, but honestly, I think that is what drives sales. Like that's what people as customers want these days, right? Like we're sick of the sneaky car salesman trying to slip in a little add-on here and there. Like we want to feel like people care. Like my problem as a consumer is now that if I walk into any store, any cafe, any restaurant, and they just say something nice or like show that they genuinely are a human and care about you as a human, I almost feel bad if I don't buy. I'm like, oh my gosh, this like experience was this interaction was so nice. I just take my money. Just take my money. And I feel like you're really good at that like personal aspect of selling, which I think everyone needs, like all salespeople need to learn that. It's so important.
I think it's beyond just salespeople, because I don't even identify as like a salesperson, honestly. Like, I think all creators, all entrepreneurs need to learn like kind of like ethical selling or like advisory, and just not being a dick or not using high pressure sales tactics. And it's also like, you know, what's really interesting? This is where my ABB-ness does come out though. Like, I think in sales, what I've had to learn, and this is where the inner work actually comes in too, where like, I think in my past, like I've always wanted to prove that like, oh, I'm good enough, I'm worth it. Like this conversation in my head is always going on. And because of that, just like with my dating life back in the day, I was always chasing. I was coming off as very desperate and stuff. But when I think in sales, like I've just learned to just really chill and just have a good time. And, you know, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, that's cool too. Just like an ABB with the ABG and the clubs. You know?
Honestly, you have this very calming presence, and that kind of helps too, because it really makes, like, as someone who is now experienced in being sold to by you, you just, it's nice. It's like you have this calming presence, and it makes me feel like, oh, this isn't like some weird, like, salesy thing, right? It's just, oh, it's just like a chat.
It's funny too, because you bought under my affiliate link too. So like, I was like, oh man,
instantly
double monetization.
Yeah, 100%. I'm telling you, you're good. Okay, we're getting little bits of your history like here and there. So why don't you take a moment just to walk us through your career journey, maybe even like why you moved from Boston to the West Coast, and what took you there, what took you into pharmacy, and then how you got to where you are today.
So I used to be a drug dealer. You can clip that. I used to be a drug dealer. So I think like growing up, I actually, you know, it's really funny. I never wanted to do like pharmacy or anything like that. It was kind of one of those things that you just like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was literally in chemistry class, and my friends were like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to look up what pays the most. And then I saw pharmacy, and I was like, oh man, it doesn't seem that long. You get a doctorate and you get like 6 figures coming out. Sold, right? I was born and raised in Boston. I think at the time I really wanted to be close to family, you know, like, I don't know, like you hear about these different Asians in like New York or LA and stuff. But it wasn't until I went to pharmacy school where all my ABG friends and ABB friends were like, hey, you should come to LA. And I couldn't find a job in my pharmacy phase. So I was like, I'm going to throw a Hail Mary. I'm going to go to LA. And I remember, I wish I had this piece of paper, but on this piece of paper I wrote, I want to meet my YouTube idols. Like I used to watch a lot of JK films and all that sort of stuff too. I was like, I really want to meet them. I think there was aspects of pharmacy that I really liked. Like I really love the theme of continuing education, always learning. I really liked the element of advisory and patient care, and just like trying to help people just like without, I don't know, there's this term in the trusted advisor, it's called self-orientation. It's basically like putting other people's interests first, right? And so I like that part about pharmacy. But the parts I didn't like about pharmacy was like, oh man, it was really turning me into an asshole. I really don't think it, I don't think it leveraged my strengths. Like I really enjoyed things like strategy. And I was just like, I wasn't growing. Like, yeah, at first when I got in the field, I was learning a lot. It was really exciting. It was fun, like pumping up the numbers and the business aspect and stuff. But over time, it was just the same algorithms over and over again. And I think the moment where I realized that this isn't for me was when Remy Sethi, he actually has a great quote. He says, like, look at the people 10, 20, 15 years ahead of you. And are they the people that you want to become? I was like, hell no, this pharmacist is
Ooh.
miserable as fuck. Like this guy is like
Yeah.
I used to watch the floater pharmacists come in with their like depressing ass brown paper lunch bag every single day. And it looked like they had the shit beaten out of them. I was like, I don't want to be like that. So that was like a motivation to leave.
Yeah, that quote hits for sure, because I'm sure so many people can relate to that, where it's like, you know, they had no idea what they wanted to do when they were in school. They entered a career that probably didn't turn out to be what they thought it would be. And then they're kind of stuck, right? It's hard for people to make those pivots in life because it's so scary to start over. Like it's terrifying to start over. But honestly, I feel like I can name like a handful of people on the top of my mind of people who would hear that quote and probably second guess what they're doing, because oftentimes we don't think that far ahead. We don't think 10, 20 years in the future and think about the people who are in those positions higher than us and think about, do we want to live like that? It's not something that we naturally do, but that's awesome that you kind of looked at it that way and just really evaluated, is this what I want to do? But then also, excuse my language, had the balls to make that change, right? How did you make the decision to go into what you were going into next?
So just to back up for a second, I was actually really, really scared to leave pharmacy. So I had the gut instinct.
I'm sure.
Like, yeah, like sunk cost fallacy is a real thing. I spent like 7 years in pharmacy school, and here I am in a career and I'm not happy in it. And I knew there was something bigger out there. And so I was just really trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. So when I got to LA and I was working, I actually went to this gym. It's called Barbell Brigade. It's by like Bart and Gio opened it up. And also one of my friends was teaching like popping lessons and stuff. He used to dance on poriotics and stuff like that. So I went to his like, I randomly showed up at his popping lessons, and there in the corner is like Joe from JK Films. And I'm like, yo, Joe, what is up? Like, blah, blah, blah. I watch all your videos. And he just totally ignored my ass. It was so funny, dude. He just ignored me.
Yeah.
But then we started seeing each other at the gym when Barbell opened up, and then we started talking more. He recommended a few books like Start With Why, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a lot of the basic entrepreneur like books that you're given. And I was like so blown away. I was like, oh my God, there's this whole world outside of what I know, and this is way more exciting. And what was really cool was like eventually Joe was like, hey, I actually have to, like, I'm actually creating this like creator house, and I love you to be part of it. I was like, what the heck? I mean, I'm locked in at a lease at another place for like a whole year, but I'll pay double rent. I don't care. And that was the start of that creator like house. And I got to see the behinds of like a vlog before vlog was cool. I got to see them plan their shoots and stuff. I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do.
At that point, have you started creating content yet, or were you just getting inspired by everything that was around you?
I think at that time I probably produced like 1 or 2 vlogs, and I was like beginning to vlog, but it was so janky back in the day. Like I still have them up somewhere. Like they're up on the internet somewhere, but
ooh, we're gonna have to find those.
Oh, it's so embarrassing. You can see what I was like at almost I was a little bit younger than you are right now, Angel, but it's kind of cringe, honestly.
I still have a lot of my old videos up, and they are extremely, extremely cringy. So we'll do like a 1-for-1 maybe. I'd love to get your mental process of how you stayed motivated when you didn't really have a clear goal in mind. Like you hadn't really yet figured out what you wanted to do. How did you stay like driven and ambitious and motivated when you don't have that clear end goal?
That's always something I really struggle with. Like I've always struggled with like end vision. It's so easy to like look into other people and see like the vision, but within myself, I always just felt really lost. And I think a lot of it came from my like lack of father. Like my dad wasn't really around that much, and I had to figure things out by myself. And so something that really helped me like during those times, the weird part, Angel, is like, dude, I was always extremely motivated. My friends would be like, dude, you're so driven. I was like, I know I'm kind of driven, but I don't know toward what. But
So relatable.
yeah.
So relatable.
I mean, I think part of it too is kind of like the Asian experience too. I don't know how your family was, but like I feel like we're told to do so much shit in our life that we never really think for ourselves or get the chance to like really explore what we really want until we're older, like us now, right? Like, yeah.
Totally. 100%. I was having this exact conversation with one of my close family friends that I grew up with recently, because she was saying how she thinks it's really impressive that I went off and started something on my own, because a part of that Asian culture is that your parents want you to achieve these big things, and oftentimes they will do anything in their power to try to help like pave your path for you. I feel like the goal of an Asian parent is they just want to design your life for you and then just have you live it. Like that is that's their dream. And so for her, you know, she went into architecture school. And so she followed the path. She went to architecture school. She graduated, became an architect, worked at these big firms, and then realized that, hey, I don't want to work in these design firms in LA because the culture really sucks. And now she's at this really pivotal point in her life where she's figuring out, do I do something on my own? Do I continue working at architecture firms? Like, what is the next step? It's so like discombobulating, right? You're like, what is going on? What am I supposed to do? Who am I? What is my goal? I don't know. Do you have any like routines, or like how did you kind of snap yourself out of that and not just fall into this like huge imposter syndrome hole?
I think that's a flaw of Asian parenting sometimes. Like,
totally.
They tell you what to do, but they don't really think about the sustainability of like, since it's not intrinsically motivated, you're like, there's a high chance that it's not sustainable in the long run. And I think that's something like I've been going through as well. Like, I've been really going through this kind of identity crisis. So like, you know, when I left pharmacy, there was a few things going on, right? Like my dad died at the time. My work found my YouTube and actually fired me for it. It was freaking crazy. Yeah, that was to jump into it. Yeah, there's a whole story behind that. And this all happened within the first, like that week, that it was like literally a span of 2 weeks. The shit hit the fan, everything happened. And I think during that time, like because I was always scared, right? I was buying these courses, I was learning digital marketing, I was learning copywriting, all these skills. Even though I had the skills, like I just never took the leap of faith. But it wasn't until like, you know, when I flew back to Boston to see my dad. I mean, my dad was so awkward. Like, dude, he's getting wheeled into surgery. And I remember looking at the clock. There was only like 20 minutes left right before he went into surgery. And so he was like, well, Kevin, do you have any questions? I was like, I don't know. This might be the last time I freaking see you. I have no idea. And then I was like,
gosh.
Well, Dad, I do have one thing. Is there anything that you kind of regret in life? Like when you look back at your life, is there anything that you regret? And I'll be honest, Angel, I don't remember what my dad said, but I just remember looking into his eyes and it told me everything. It was like that beat up old pharmacist times 100. I can tell that he had so much regret. It's like, I could tell that he probably felt really bad about like how he treated our family, how he treated me at the time and stuff. And all I remember was like leaving that room. And I was like, I don't want to be on that deathbed, like feeling like my father. And so that was like one of the reasons why I was just like, I don't know, my intuition, I've never really listened to it, but I think it's time. And my dad, I actually have a text message of this with my dad. I told him I was getting like, I might get fired and all this sort of stuff. And he was like, you know what, Kevin, you're always smart. You're really smart. You're talented. You're like, if I know you can do it, if there's anything you need, you can just talk to us. And I think that was like the final thing where I was just like, I'm just going to do it. I don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully I don't go homeless and die or something.
Yeah.
But that was like the thing. And I still go through it. So I was trying like YouTube. I was trying like high ticket sales. I was trying copywriting. I was trying all these things. And I think only until like recently where everything kind of came together where I mean, recently, like I've been making anywhere from like $1,000, $3,000 per day, like in my just like one of my clients. And I'm like,
Mm.
holy crap. Like, was this the moment I was always like kind of waiting for? Like after all these years and stuff, like my internal and my external are finally meeting up. Like I honestly yesterday was about to cry just in my car, just like realizing how great my life is right now, you know, with it.
Yeah. I
So
literally have chills. Like, I kind of want to cry. When you're telling me the story, I was like, why am I tearing up? Like,
you know.
no, that's really touching. It's honestly really sweet that you can have that moment with maybe a parent that you haven't always connected with, because that's also something it's beyond just Chinese culture, Asian culture. It's like in a lot of cultures, parents just don't know how to talk to their kids, and it can be really, really tough not fully being able to have that guidance in the way that you need it from the people that are supposed to guide you in life, right? But I mean, I love for you that you are now kind of settling into this new stage in your life where things are clicking. Do you feel like it took a long time for you to get to this point where like the one thing clicked? Or did it sort of, was the journey sort of, this kind of clicked for a while and then it didn't, this kind of clicked for, like, what was that journey like? Was it just, you tried a bunch of things, you landed on one that was gaining momentum and you decided on it? Or how did that look like for you?
It's kind of like video game skill trees and stuff like that. There's like skill trees, or like even in university you take like one class and another class and you don't really see how it relates to everything. But
Yep.
for me, it's kind of like I was learning these individual skills. And then only recently I've like kind of seen like, oh, how this all comes together, right? Like I see like I really think it's my, like for example, inner work, right? Like I'll give a very tangible like example. Like in sales, a lot of people suck because they can't listen. There's a lot of internal chatter going on. They're they're thinking about their own beliefs, or they're thinking about, oh, what is Angel, how does Angel think about me, and will she perceive me, will she buy? And while you're talking and sharing your life story, I'm not listening. But it wasn't until like I focused on like the inner work of like noticing certain thoughts, being able to emotionally regulate, where like I became better at sales, and that actually made me a lot more money in the long term. Same goes with content creation too. Like when I do these like crazy long affiliate videos, I'm able to reduce the internal chatter where I can really empathize with people and think about like, what do people really want to know? Like if they're watching this video, and like, I'm just like, that's how all these skills are working. Like copy. I think that's why I love YouTube so much. It takes like, there's video, there's like a bit of copywriting, there's script writing, there's all these tangential skills that stack up, which I find really exciting. I'm not sure if this is the same way for you, if you felt the same way.
No, 100%. And it's why I've been able to keep it up for like 10 plus years. It's because there's always more that you can learn and work on. And also the landscape is always changing, and it never feels like I'm just creating YouTube videos over and over. It's like, no, this week I might be working on my script writing, and next week I might be working on like really great short form title writing, and next week I might be working on like trying a new editing thing. Like it's never ending, the amount of things that you can try and learn and do. So I think that is what keeps it so fun and creatively fulfilling for most creators, right?
Yeah, and there's two things I want to say to that too. It's like, one, that's what I really respect about you. I think like in the short time knowing each other, I think we have very similar aligned values of like self-actualization, personal growth and stuff. And to answer your previous question that you asked me before, like, how do you stay motivated despite not having a vision? It's like, for me, it feels like such a fun game to consistently level up, to see yourself get better and better and better, even though I don't know why I'm getting better. Like, I don't see it in the short term. I think the long term, I'm playing this game that feels like play. Famous Naval Ravikant quote, one of my favorite books.
Yeah. First of all, quickly, it's weird that we're talking about like, oh, we align on so many things because we're literally wearing the same outfit right now for like, this is unplanned. We're
Okay,
both wearing black t-shirts with not one but two chains stacked, which is what I keep on all the time. I don't take these chains off. What is going on?
Let's be honest. I've had the same attire ever since we first met. So like I'm the constant. I've always worn a black shirt with like.
I've always only worn black or white or gray, like neutral colors. But yeah, it's just funny that we hopped onto this podcast today and it's like, whoa.
Maybe you are the ABG. Maybe you are ABG.
No. I think there's people who are really good at looking at the long term and figuring out what their destination is. And then I think there's people like me who are really good at just doing and trying and just throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks and continuously working on ourselves. And I don't know, I feel like it's up for debate which one is more quote unquote productive or effective, right? And I used to really beat myself up for that. You know, I used to just that internal like struggle of when people ask you, what are your values? What is your end goal? How much money do you want to make? Where do you want to end up? I'm like, I don't know. Don't ask me these questions. I'm figuring it out. Like, you're freaking me out, right?
Yeah.
But obviously doing the inner work, as you said, has taught me a lot about myself. And I can lay out, like I have the groundwork laid out of like, okay, these are my values. This is what fulfills me. This is how I take care of myself. And anything above that, like, although I have very general goals in mind, it's like at this point, I'm like, I just truly feel happy about the fact that my path is to continuously learn and grow and just see where that takes me. I think everybody struggles with, self-image issues and insecurities, and I definitely do. But the one thing that I think is really funny and almost just like a quirk of mine is that I have this almost irrational belief in myself, which is very contradicting to being raised in an Asian family and just getting battered all the time, and just get pummeled by my parents and all their friends. But for some reason in my head, I've just always told myself, like, whatever it is that I end up wanting to do, I will be able to do it. And I think because I had that belief in myself, I was able to prove it to myself time and time and again. I ended up leaving a university and going to this like more like intensive, almost like boot camp style college, even though that is so against the grain for Asians to like not finish university. Mm-hmm. But I was like, nope, I know this is what I need. So I'm going to do it. And I know I can take this education and make something of it. With YouTube, with my career, with everything, it's like, I make a decision and then I will do anything it takes to get there, and just proving to myself time and time and again, like, oh, I can do it. I can do the things that I tell myself that I'm going to do. I think literally has created this belief system in myself that's like unfaltering.
You know what? Like, as you're speaking and you're like smiling and stuff, I think about like my experience growing up in an Asian household, and we were talking about getting our ass beat. And then you're like, mm-hmm. Oh my God, I have this irrational belief I can do anything. It's kind of funny how, like, I don't know what your what your history is growing up and all that, but it's kind of interesting how you took it and like spun it around and just were able to make something positive of it. Like, I feel like for me, I was like, oh fuck, I suck at everything. That's why I need to get better at all these things, But it's really interesting to see how optimistic you were just growing up and all that.
You make it sound so, dude, you make it sound so wholesome and sweet, but truly it stems from me just having the most intense fire in me to want to prove people wrong. I was never the smart kid of my big family friend group. They all went off to Ivy Leagues, the commerce schools that Asian kids, like the Asian parents loved. And they all went into careers like game design, architecture, business. And me, I was like, I want to do marketing. I was a straight C student.
Oh, really?
Like, C's get you I was like, C's get you degrees too, mom. Okay? Like, it doesn't matter.
You look like a very good. You look like a straight A student. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
you are so wrong. And yeah, like I've literally had my own mother who I do have a good relationship with, but like look me dead in the face and tell me, Angel, vases are pretty, but they're empty. Essentially looking at me and telling me, sure, you're pretty, but you have no substance. That shit hurt, okay? And I think because all of these negative labels were placed on me since I was so young. They're like, oh yeah, she's the nice one. She's the friendly one. She's the cute one, but she's not the smart one, the successful one, the one that we love the most. And I think having all those ideas placed on me since I was so young, like I just developed this like pettiness and spite to just prove everyone wrong. Like, it's like what we were talking about earlier. That's my drive. That's like my drive. Proving people wrong and proving to myself that I can do whatever the fuck I want.
I wonder for you, has that motivation kind of changed over the years? Like, I know that you mentioned your relationship with your mom has gotten better. Now that it's better, it's kind of like, do you still hold that spite? Not hold that spite against her, but use that spite as motivation still to this day?
Great question. Obviously, spite, pettiness, all of those are they're extrinsic motivations. And I think through therapy and through learning about myself and reading books and really working on myself, I've now been able to turn that extrinsic motivation into an intrinsic motivation. So what may have motivated me early on in my life was to prove people wrong. But like I said, it's turned into just like proving myself right. Like it's turned into this almost like intrinsic like dopamine cycle of like, I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And it makes me feel amazing. I think that if I continued on with that negative motivator, it wouldn't have been sustainable. But now I'm genuinely just someone who's like, I'm going to figure it out. And I think I've just always been someone who also loves the process of like learning and just trying and doing and just like getting my hands dirty. And so all of those things have kind of worked to my favor and become an intrinsic motivator.
And one thing that I feel very strongly about actually is like, so often we're expected to like know what we want at the very, very end, like right from the get-go. And I hate that. Like, honestly, like I think one of the things that has helped me kind of discover like the things I want to do, my mission and all that sort of stuff was actually not the draconian fight or flight like environment. It was being able to relax, to play, to kind of experience things. And through those experiences, I've been able to kind of like get a better idea of my vision, I guess. But I'm kind of curious, as you've kind of experienced things, I know you mentioned that you struggled kind of like having that end goal in mind, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you experienced kind of like similar things where you're doing things and you're just realizing, oh, I actually want to do this more, or I find myself leaning toward this goal a little bit?
Completely. I am a manifesting generator. I just do things, I just do it all. And I think I'm very much so someone who like, as soon as I have an interest in something, I'm like giving it my 300%. And I'm like, I'm just going to try it. I want to try it. I want to do it. I want to buy all the things to do all the things and see where I can go with it. And it really comes down to that saying of like throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. And whether what is causing the sticking is intrinsic, like it makes me feel good, or it's fun for me, or whether it's extrinsic, like it is profitable, it can help me improve my career or like help me grow in my career, whatever that reason for sticking is, I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's stuck. Oh, that's a pretty good reason for sticking. And then I will kind of like go in that direction. Touching a little on like what you also said about how you found that relaxing and playing has really helped you kind of like settle your brain and be able to actually realize like what you want to go in, the path you want to go in. I'd love to hear how you work that into your routine as well, because like that's definitely something that I personally struggle with a little bit. And I think it is because I find so much joy in work. Like I genuinely have so much fun doing the things that I do for work. that I'm kind of in this slightly depressing stage in my life where when someone asks you, what do you like doing on the weekend? What are your hobbies? I'm like, work. I love work. And on one side, I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because it is something that fulfills me in so many different ways. But on the other side, I'm hearing myself say it and I'm like, God damn, girl, are you okay? Like, you know? So how did you, especially like growing up in that typical Asian environment and having all that anxiety, like how did you get to that place where you can relax and find joy in things and play? And how do you work that in your schedule?
Man, the more I talk to you, the more I realize I'm like looking into a mirror, but just like a female version, like a more feminine version, right? Like,
yeah.
Because I'm the same way. People are like, what do you do on your week? I'm like, dude, I love going to a coffee shop. I love working. But
so good.
yeah, but like when I flash back my life just a few years ago when I was in pharmacy, I couldn't have said that. I'd be like, oh my God, all I want to do is just work on my YouTube channel. And I think this is the new rich. Like when you find something that feels like play where actually like you're doing work that actually means something to you, that has a greater purpose. I think that's a new currency. That's money. That's something that money can't buy. If I was in investment banking or whatever, making tons of money, I mean, you can't buy that. You can't buy fulfilling work. And so like, maybe I'm a little unbalanced because I'm also single as fuck right now too. So like, I'm just like, man, my life is just like all work and everything augments the work stuff too. I think one of the reason why I got into inner work and emotional regulation was because it helps me work better. And I realized like things like getting massages or taking some downtime or going for a walk, I realized those breaks are so necessary because I can't keep on going, especially as a projector, you know, because my human design, which is what we've been referring to the whole time, right? Is like I sprint, rest. That's like my human design. That's how my energy comes. And so I don't have a good answer for you. I don't really relax as much as I would like to, but I think one thing that has really helped me a lot is just like noticing the thoughts, noticing what thoughts come up and being able to self-soothe and just like emotional regulate.
Are you someone who has a very like strict routine with your day, or do you have a few things planned and then you kind of like go with the flow for the rest of the time?
I think I've been I think in the past I wasn't very regimented, right? Like I was just like, oh, I'll go jiu-jitsu this day or I'll work on my YouTube this day, right? Which isn't always the best strategy. I think these days my client, like I do the whole time blocking thing. And so like every single day I'll go jiu-jitsu at the certain time. I'll do something YouTube related at this time. I'll leave it open, but it's just like a YouTube block. My client work though is always like super regimented. That's like the school brain, the science brain, the professionalism brain in my mind. But for some reason, when it comes to my stuff, the creative stuff, I'm just like, oh, let's go like super flowy and just see how the day goes and stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it is nice to not, because I think one of the joys about doing anything creative is that freedom that you get with it, right? And I do find that for some people, when they start regimenting and like structuring their creativeness or their creative work too much, it takes the joy out of it. So I think that's totally fine. Like as long as within a week, you know, I need to film once, I need to do this once, and I need to do this 5 times, and you just kind of slot it in when you can, that's totally fine. Especially because you do have client work. That's like kind of the work aspect.
I find that when I regiment too much, I almost get this like creative constipation where I'm just like, oh my God, the ideas aren't coming to me. Fuck, I fucking suck at this shit. And then it's like, I'm pushing harder and harder and harder. And it's like the ideas, it's harder to write. It's harder to do anything creative. But this is so funny. I actually had a chat with Ali and I said this to his face because he just like launched his book and stuff. I was like, Ali, you're probably going to hate me, man. But honestly, I think personal productivity is so overrated. And he's like, I totally agree with you. I was like, what? I have this recorded, by the way. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I was like, honestly, the biggest thing that's helped me, like someone with inconsistent energy, is like hiring a team and team efficiency too. So I try, like, when
Yeah.
I'm assembling my team and stuff, I try to look for the people who are like more constant with their energies, like generators. Like those people, they're workhorses. I need those people. I can't be a generator for a long time, you know?
Okay. We've mentioned this like here and there all over this pod episode. So like, let's get into human design. You know, I feel like we have to just a little bit. I am very new to it. I literally learned it through you and our mastermind cohort. And obviously there are people who like who are in that cohort who are just so knowledgeable about it. But I've just started to really dig into mine a little bit more. So tell us first tell us your interpretation of like what human design is, and then tell us your human design chart a little bit and how it's helped you.
I think there's a lot about human design. I'm not like an expert or anything like that, but the most useful things I've discovered about human design is like, it's really helped me one, notice my energy. Like, how do I kind of function? Like what, you know, sometimes like we see this in sports all the time. There's that like really athletic person always sprinting. We got the slow twitch people who are marathon runners and stuff. And human design is kind of like the same way. Like you notice where your energy is coming from. And I think as a creator and business owner too, like you also get to know like what environments you thrive in, and also how to best make decisions. In the human design, there's like a few different archetypes. There's like generators, which are like your workhorses, your projectors, which that's what I am. They're like your advisors. They do mostly strategy stuff. There's the manifesting generators, which I think pretty much do everything. Like they're like the all-stars. There's the manifestors, who are more the visionaries. And there's the reflectors, which I don't really know what they do. I've only met one reflector in my life. But the funny thing about them, they have to wait, like, it's so woo. It's a bit like woo-woo. They're like, oh yeah, you have to wait a full moon cycle, which is like 28 days or something like that to make your decision.
Yeah.
So it's like super woo-woo. It's based off the I Ching, the Kabbalah, some other stuff. But whether it's true or not, I find that it's a great reflective tool. See if it's see how you best thrive in work environments and all that, and team structuring.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of, I mean, with anything that is like self-reflecting, learning about yourself, like all those personality tests, I think you can take it with a grain of salt, right? Everyone believes in different things and has different levels to their own spirituality or religion or culture. But what I love most about all of these different tools and like your astrology, your personality tests, all these different personality tests in your human design is that it just forces you to look at yourself and like be more aware of like who you are. So you said that you're a projector, right?
That's right. So, you know, how it's really, really helped me is like, there's a few things. So this is how I design my day, how I maximize my productivity and stuff. So my locations, right, is like caves. So I like being in like isolation and just like working all the time. That's like me, right? Like that's what it says about my location. I was like, oh my God, this is so true. It also talks about how to make decisions too. So like, you know how like it tells you like when you're making the right decision and when you're making the wrong decision. So for me, I'm a very emotional dude. I feel like I'm Drake, like kind of like Drake sometimes, kind of like emotional and stuff. Like I'm in my feels a lot. And so, but basically my human design tells me to follow what my heart wants to do. And when I make the wrong decision, whether it's dating a really bad ABG or ex-girlfriend or bad business decision, I feel bitter as fuck. I will, in my head, talk so much shit about the situation. I'm like, oh, fuck, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. Like I hear that internal chatter. That's how I know like what to notice, when to leave a certain engagement, leave a certain client, leave a certain situation, relationship. That's when I know to end. And then it also goes into like your life mission too. Like there's a profile, there's a number. For me, I'm like a 1-3, which is like the establisher of knowledge and truth, which means like
that
I'm
is
always
so on point.
Like, dude, I always love learning about things, and I'm like a martyr.
Teaching
like,
it.
yeah, I have to be the one that goes through the shit, makes all the mistakes, and just teach people. So that's like, those are things like that are really important. And then there's also like strategy, like when to look for opportunities. And for me, it's like, oh, I need to be invited to things, right? That's as a projector. And then like also my role in things too. Like I shouldn't just butt in and tell people like what I think all the time. I have to wait to be invited. And then really, if I do open my mouth, it's really about how I see people pay me to see to for me to give them perspective on how I see the world, advisory, things like that.
I guess something I never used to think about, which you and Mike and Mikey and Seaman have really put me on, is using these tools that you have to learn about yourself, like your human design chart, and applying it to business.
Oh yeah.
Because I think in the past, whenever I come across one of these like tests, or when I look into my astrological birth chart, I just apply it so much to my personal life and like my relationships and my relationship with myself. And for some reason, I never ever have thought about applying it to business. So I think it's really cool. And I think that's one thing that human design does come in a little differently, is it literally tells you like, these are the things that energize you. This is how you need to receive information. This is how you need to start new projects. Like it makes it so much easier for you to apply it to like business, career, entrepreneurship, projects. I don't know. It's just something I never used to think about.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool that that's what you do with it.
The fascinating part too is like, I'm not the only one. My friend Mike, you're mentioning Mike Kim. He's a branding guy and stuff. He redesigned his whole business based off his human design. It was because of human design where I shut down my agency. I was like, oh, this is why I'm always getting tired. I'm not supposed to kind of be in this role. And this is where like really reflecting like past situations where you didn't thrive. I don't think I thrived as a pharmacist just because it was a 9 to 5 day in, day out, like constant grind. And that's just not me, like I don't thrive well in those situations. And so like, that's why I try to put myself in roles where like I just advise and I just like tell people the way I see things and stuff. That's why I have a mastermind. That's why I don't have like a course or anything like that, because I really love relationships. And I do, it's no wonder why I'm in high ticket sales, because all I do is just share what I see and people buy, like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's funny because like my chart has told me that I need to like build community and I need to like teach. And so it's funny that I learned about it when I did, because prior to reading about my human design chart, that was the direction I was heading. I was like, okay, how do I build a close-knit community? How do I continue to build that community, to grow it, to change it, to evolve it, to make it more valuable? How can I teach more? How can I just bring value? And then I learned about it and I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. But the other thing that my human design chart has taught me that really it really made a huge impact in my life. And actually something you told me that is in the same vein, like so aligned, that literally made a huge impact in my life, was that aspect of being a manifesting generator, how I'm just someone who's going to want to start and do a million things. And again, that's something I used to really beat myself up about, because it made me feel really different than people with such strong directional paths, because I'm like, like I just want to do everything, which means that I am not focused and I can't really do anything well. And it just means that I must suck at everything, And then funny enough, in one of our earlier conversations, I was saying to you, like, this is what I'm really struggling with, because I hate the feeling of being such a generalist and being someone who is a master of none, right? And how you really changed my life and literally just flipped my imposter syndrome on its back, was you told me that is not the full quote, right? I think everyone knows that small part of the quote, but that is not the full quote. So can you tell us what that full quote is?
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master in none. I need to look up the rest. Hold on. Hold on for 1 second. Full quote. Because while I'm looking that up, no one tells you this stuff. So like, okay.
Nobody, yeah, because you only ever hear jack of all trades, master of none. And it makes you feel like shit. I'm like, damn, I'm the master of none. I am not good at anything.
Oh, yes. Jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
That like just blew my mind, because this quote that's been haunting me for so many years, just making me feel like absolute ass. And then you telling me, wait a second, that's not the full quote. Like, you're actually not doing that poorly. But then also you telling me that, me kind of getting a new perspective on it, and then having my human design validate me so strongly about, hey, you were born at this time, at this place, and these are the energies that align in the world, and that is why you are the way you are. I was like, oh my God, why have I been hating on myself this entire time and beating myself up for this, when maybe this is just what I'm destined to do and be like, and that is just what energizes me, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like, not to get emotional or like sentimental on you, but like, you really, it fucking changed my life. It really changed like some serious negative inner dialogue that I used to have.
When I first met you, I saw I've been in rooms, like I've been so fortunate to meet people like Hormozy, Christo, Vanessa, Lau, like all these people, Ali, obviously, because he's my client. But when I look at you, I don't see a generalist. I feel like the way that you do things is like, even the way like you're doing this podcast, right? And you're like, oh, which thumbnail, like which logo looks best? I was like, they all look good. This one catches my eye, but they all look freaking good, honestly. And I'm like, man, I just see like a multi-specialist. I see elements of like my friends, these people I've met in you. And I think you're just like, you're not like them, but it's like a unique I can see elements of like these specialist qualities in you. And that's something I'm not sure if you see in yourself, but I definitely see. I think a lot of other people might see the same thing too.
It's funny that you say that, because I think that once you get to know me and like really see my passion and my drive in the things that I do, it's easier to come to that idea of me. But the problem that I face is that when I am, let's say, applying for a job or trying to sell myself to a client and trying to tell them, and when they actually sit down and ask me, okay, so what are you good at? What are you great at? Like, where do you see yourself fitting in and being able to really like excel in my business? Or how can you help me? I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, well, I'm really good at design, but I'm also really good at this, but I'm also really good at that. But oh, I actually have been making videos for a really long time, so I'm pretty good at scripting and like writing this and doing that and filming. Oh, I actually have a lot of knowledge about cameras and audio and editing. And oh, wait, but do you see how that just all of a sudden sounds like this girl has no idea what the fuck she's talking about? Like, what are you saying? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's like almost, it's harder to sell multi-specialism / like multiple values at a time than it is just to be like, I'm an excellent designer or I'm an excellent copywriter.
You know what it is though? It's like, yes, you are right. When you are pitching multiple things, like it's very like what the hell? This person got ADD. They're not focused. They probably suck at all these.
Yeah.
But the thing I always think about is like, okay, like if someone were to ask me like, what do you do? I would probably flip the question and be like, I'm so curious. What are some of the challenges that you're stuck with your business? So I can see if I can help. And then I cater those specialty things to that like answer. Man. I mean, because like I like a lot of things too, but every single time I like try to pitch or not really understand their burning needs, their burning desires, what keeps them up at night. That's really cliche. But like anytime I try to like just explain things, it just always falls short because they feel talked to, not like part of that like discovery and journey and that conversation, which I think is so important. I think if you flip the question around, you'll never go through that problem ever again.
I think it also just comes from like beyond not having sales skills. It also just comes from it's been an insecurity of mine for so long of just not knowing what I'm really, really good at. Like I feel like I'm pretty good at a lot of things, but it is a bit of an insecurity of being like, oh, well, you know, some people are just really good at one thing and they've spent a lot of time and energy doing one thing. So it must make them so skilled at it. And I'm like, well, I spent a lot of my time doing a lot of things given because of my, like, how I feel about it and how excited about it I just go like, I really go in deep, but still, you know.
Do you feel like that's actually the truth though, that these people who are really great at one thing, is it because they're actually good at one thing, or is it that they like position themselves that way? Because I find at the highest levels, whether it's jujitsu or marketing or anything else, like there's tangential skills to be built along the way. You're never going to find like, oh, I'm great at Facebook ads, but I suck at copywriting. No, chances are that you're probably a decent copywriter or you can write some copy at the highest levels.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. I think it totally depends on the person. I definitely think it goes both ways. There's definitely people who've put all their energy into one thing and just have blocked out all of those other skills that they may have or haven't even thought about or like aren't aware that they need those other skills. But then there are the people who, let's say, like they are a UI UX designer. As a UI UX designer, you also need to know some psychology. Like you need to study psychology a little bit. You need to study, you know, what is it called? Like a little bit of copywriting, obviously the user experience part, but then you also need to be really good with people because you need to do group studies. So I think it goes both ways, but you're right. Like both of those scenarios, that person will market themselves as an expert in that thing.
Yeah.
So you really don't know until you work with somebody, right?
And I also think too, like when we buy things, I totally get like the saying, the riches are in the niche. The riches are in the niches.
The riches are in the niches.
Niches. Oh yeah, that's why I say niche.
I know. I say niche. Yeah.
Yeah. But I really like products that are really like focused on one thing. But as people in general advisory, I like tangential people, like multi specialists in my mind.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of boring otherwise, right? Like that's kind of and we've had this conversation about like niching down on YouTube and why we just feel so much resistance against it, but it's like it feels like it'd be I hate the idea of just focusing on one thing. I hate it with a burning passion.
I'm happy to share my experience, but I'm curious on you. Have you ever created like a very niche channel before? Like a solo niche?
Not on YouTube. I did it on TikTok and Instagram. It's still up. It's called Feel Good Studios. I'm probably going to repurpose it, but I really wanted to dive deep and like provide information about working in marketing and creative. So the tools that you need to use, you know, instructionals, how-tos, stuff like that. And I grew like that TikTok. It grew to like 15,000 followers, I think, in just like a month or two. Like it grew fast. And that kind of proved to me that it is possible that if you niche down and you provide value, that you will grow fast. But even after seeing the proof in my hands, I was like, ugh, I hate it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
I feel you because I actually did. I mean, okay, so this is when I know someone's a seasoned advisor or not. They'll be like, hey, why don't you try niching? If you did your homework on me, like I actually had a niche channel and it was an investing channel. It was called Kick-Ass Investing. It made like decent revenue and started getting followers back in the day. But just like the Asian parenting that we were talking about, I realized I just want to blow my brains out and it wasn't sustainable in the long run. You know, and that's just not who I am as a person. Like, I don't think I can really talk about one subject for the rest of my life. That's why I really like people like Christo or Ali Abdaal or these other people who can talk about a lot of broad things, but when they have products and they have solutions that they're selling, they're like super specific. There's like Productivity Lab, Part-Time YouTuber Academy. Those are things that like, yeah, that's what I like. I find that the best, like that's what they do to keep it sustainable for them. Because I can't imagine Ali talking about productivity every single video, like every single one. You go crazy.
Totally. But it is a bit of that, like, especially in today's landscape, it is a little bit of that balancing act of like, well, Ali and Christo is able to talk about whatever the fuck they want because they are who they are now, right? And then so it's like, okay, well, I want to talk about all the things that interest me and that I learn, but at the same time, I'm not yet at that stage where people will give a shit no matter what I talk about. So it's like that fine line of like, okay, well, I know I need to niche to grow, but also I'm interested in so many things. And so it's just hard. It's like for me personally, it's been my biggest challenge because I almost feel a little bit ashamed, like that I have this idea in mind of where I want to take my channel and how far I want to take it and the business I want to grow with it. And like, you know, all of these big, big lofty goals, but I'm also not doing the single strategy that I know will get me there faster or like get me there for sure. And it's like cognitive dissonance. Cause like I'll talk to you guys, I'll talk to April Lynn and she's like, okay, like if your goals are the X, Y, and Z, this is what you gotta do. And I'm like, no, I don't wanna.
It's so funny, you know, and that's where I feel like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, oh man, I have like conversations in my head. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, is it because I'm not disciplined and stuff like that? But then again, I look at my human design for a second. I'm like, no, I've done this before and I harbor such bitterness that I just don't want to do it. So I don't know if I'm just like, I struggle with it.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting? So you are familiar with like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and stuff, where you start off at the survival and you go to self-actualization and shit. I don't know. Like, so I've had the life in LA. I've had like a lot of these different aspects, right? But the more I kind of go towards self-actualization, the less I care about the external stuff. Like personally for me, I just don't care. Like I find myself crossing out these like lofty goals of like, I want a multi-million like revenue business. It's not to say I don't want those things, but they aren't super important to me anymore. And I find myself like having less and less, like I find myself like less and less relatable to like people than I was just like a few years ago, you know, even with my normal friends too. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm having a kid and I'm like going my 9 to 5. I was like, dude, I can't relate to any of that shit anymore. Like it's kind of crazy, you know?
Well, I think humans just grow and change, right? And everyone ends up heading in a slightly different or sometimes really different path. But I think the really special and nice thing about humans is that you're always going to be able to find your people, and your people aren't going to stay the same. That doesn't mean that they will no longer be your friends or people that you care about. But like, what I mean by your people is like the people that you relate to, the people that relate to you, the people who are in the same mindset and life stage as you. There's always going to be people out there who is on that same wavelength. And once you grow, then you meet new people who are on that different wavelength. And I think that's kind of a part of the joy, and like kind of added to a part of the joy that exists in my life right now is like, okay, as my mindset is starting to shift, I'm like almost actively seeking out but manifesting new relationships where they're on the same wavelength as me. And it's really nice because it's like I have my high school friends and they're great. I have my uni friends and they're awesome. I have my girlfriends and they're my ride or dies. But then I meet people like you, or I meet people like Aprilyn, and I'm like, oh, whoa, like you guys are kind of like where I'm at, or like a step ahead, or you think like me, or you're in this specific, like there's always, it's just nice. It's just nice because it's like, it doesn't mean that you have to give up on the old. It just means you're just going to keep gaining new great experiences and meeting people who are on the same wavelength.
I wrote this question down on my notebook as you're speaking. Angel, who are your people that you're kind of manifesting right now?
That is an amazing question. that I'm manifesting. So the people that I want in my life.
Yeah. Like, because you're going through a transition, right? Like right now. So I'm just very curious about that.
Totally. I think the people that I'm manifesting in my life right now are definitely entrepreneurial, whether it's creative businesses like creators or creatives or not, but just like people who are in a similar mindset as me, where they feel the drive and they feel the pull to just do and like work on things and grow their business and learn, right? Like, kind of as I was mentioning, I have these different groups of friends, and I think they're really great for all these different purposes. I don't want it to sound like humans are, friends should have purposes, but it's like, I know when I'm experiencing certain things, I'm going to go to my girlfriends. But when I want like just a wholesome time, I'm going to go to my high school friends, And so what I'm manifesting are like the people that I can go to when I'm just like, let's talk shop. Let's talk strategy. Let's help each other grow. Like, what have you been working on? What am I working on?
You know what it reminds me of? Like back when I was 25 or 20s and stuff. I remember I always used to have my clubbing friends and stuff like that. We always go clubbing. Those were those people. I have like my jujitsu friends. I have my pharmacy school friends. I have all these different friends. I have my ratchet friends where I used to go ratchet ass like hip hop clubs and stuff or like events all the time. But it almost feels like that. And then I don't know if you know, like you kind of alluded to it, but I saw this like really big. It wasn't until I went through PTYA where I realized there's so many people just feeling alone, especially in the creator space, and there's not enough spaces like where people can talk shop and be excited and shit.
I think that more and more people and creators are picking up on that and identifying that as a pain point and are creating communities, which is great. But I don't think that it's being necessarily done in the right way, or like in a way where you can build genuine connections. And I think that I feel like the word mastermind has like this weird annotation to it because there was a period. Yeah. Exactly. But to be honest, being in Ollie's community where there's a lot of people, and even though we're all working on the same thing and it's, part-time YouTuber Academy accelerator program versus being in your mastermind, I'm getting a lot more value from your mastermind purely because in addition to what I'm learning, I'm also getting human connection.
It's different. Yeah. That's what some people ask me, oh, isn't it a conflict of interest? But I feel like they're very different products too.
It's totally different. Yeah, totally different.
That's the thing, man. Fun fact, dude, my nickname back in college was like friend zone and stuff. Worst name ever for getting girls.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not like yo mute friend zone. Yeah, not the best like positioning there for the name, but I think it was kind of true. Like you talk about, like, I think earlier we were talking about purpose and figure out what we want to do and stuff. And I think even this conversation, think about the mastermind. If you asked me like 2 years ago, I never even wanted to do it at all, period. But when I look back at my life, I always loved chopping up with people. I always loved bringing people together. Even on your Boston trip, even though it's like the day that you're leaving, I was like, yo, do you want to make some friends in Boston? It just hit me. I was like, you should really meet like blah, blah, blah in my head, but then you're leaving. So it didn't work out. But I love doing that. There's something, I get a dopamine hit every single time I do that. And I see people hanging out that we commonly know and stuff. So I don't know. Like, I really think that's like my life purpose at this point in time, just to meet people, connect people together.
I think like a common theme that I definitely pick up from this episode, but also like something that I'm trying to really get across from this podcast in general, is that when you work on yourself, your path will be so much more clear. That connection between personal growth and career growth, it's like you do that inner work and you learn about yourself, you figure out what you enjoy, what drives you, what energizes you, and that will ultimately guide your purpose and your goals and what you do as a job even. And it's going to make things feel so much more fulfilling, right? You not knowing that you wanted to do a mastermind when in reality, you've been the person that you've been. You are who you are, and you are somebody who's really good at connecting people. like you are friend zone.
I am friend zone
That's
for the
nice.
rest of my life. I'm going to die single. Thank
Yeah.
you, Angel. Thank you.
Okay, to make you feel better, my nickname in high school was Strangel.
Strangel? Because you're strange?
Yeah, because I was weird. Okay, so
I mean, you are kind of quirky, like.
Thanks for validating that. But no, like, so don't worry. You're not the only one who had a shitty nickname. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. You know what? I'm proud of it.
But you know what it is? It's like really funny because I laugh about it now, but like I felt like I was running away from who I was always meant to be my whole entire life. And like now at 36, I'm just realizing like, oh, this is actually always the person I needed to be to hit that next level of success. And like, it's really, like I say, the thing I'm so grateful for is being able to get into these rooms, like be able to talk to Chris, Vanessa, like Mike and all those, like Mike Kim and all those people.
Mm-hmm.
And they all say the common thing, right? Oh, you're a super connector. I would buy a mastermind just so that you could connect me with cool people and stuff like that. And I'm just like, wow, I guess I am friend zoned for the rest of my life. Fuck.
Yeah. No, I think you make a great point how like when we're babies, or maybe when we're infants or children, we are who we are and we haven't yet let culture and society and the world beat us the fuck down yet. And then we do. All that happens. We go through rejection. We go through tough times. We get scarred. We get traumatized and we change. But one thing that you said that just it triggered something for me was I think that for a long time I've like become more and more and more introverted and just become more and more and more socially anxious. Whereas when I was a kid, that was what my parents and all our family friends knew me as, was like the friendly person, the friendly girl, the girl that gets along with everyone, making friends no matter where she is. And like, it's kind of started to come full circle where like I went through that period of intense introversion, but now I'm coming out of the other end and I'm realizing like, oh, frick, like I love meeting new people and I love going out there and making friends and having those connections again. And it excites me to like talk to you and talk to other people. Like it just feels good. And it took me like so many years of really digging deep into my traumas. And then like, I thought that, I was going to be introvert forever. And now I'm on the other end and I'm like, wait a second, I like people.
Our journeys that we're talking about right now, like when I'm in those rooms, every single one of those people have gone through those exact journeys of like
totally
full circle. And because of that, I don't feel alone. And it's really interesting. I'm like, I didn't know about your childhood and being called Strangel and stuff. That's kind of funny. But I think about like you now, like just meeting you at this point in my life and stuff. And I feel like your look, your aesthetic, you being different is actually what catches my eye from all the other creators. Like that, it's that aspect which I feel like is your superpower,
Yeah. My strangelness.
Rename your Instagram to Strange.
I was like, is it time to rebrand? Is this my unique selling proposition? Oh my God, can you imagine? It would be funny though.
Maybe you should have a Finsta for that.
Yeah. Hey, actually, now that you mentioned Finsta, my fam, she gains the most sales from actually a private Finsta of hers that she only gives access to, like lets people in twice a year, but it has like, I think it's like 500,000 followers on this private Finsta. And it like, those are her, what is it called? Like 1,000 true leads or 1,000 true customers or whatever. 1,000 true fans. She has 500,000 of them in a private Finsta. And God, they will do whatever. Smart. It's so amazing. So you know what? Strangel, Finsta, let's go.
Merch
you heard
launch.
It here first.
Merch launch.
You heard it here first. You want to be a part of my Finsta?
Have you joined it, by the way? Have you like seen the insides of her Finsta?
I haven't been accepted yet. Although I don't feel that bad about it because Colin and Samir recently talked about it and they haven't been accepted yet. So I was like, all right, if they haven't been, I don't feel that bad that I haven't been accepted. But what she says is she only goes through like her list of requests twice a year and then she'll just mass accept. But I like, if you already have 500K, like think about how many people are probably in that request list. Like, I don't know if she's going to make it to me. And she does it manually. So like, I don't know if this girl is like, she can't possibly tap approve like 20,000 times, right? So think about how little people are getting accepted twice a year, right? So I'll wait my turn.
I'm so curious about that. That's the thing I love about creators, because we're seeing all these like interesting marketing strategies and stuff to drive to offers.
Totally.
That's what I nerd. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the best strategies always come organically. Like for her, the reason she has that Finsta is because she actually got in trouble with school for making YouTube videos. Plus, she had strict Asian parents. And so when she, I think was like got a piercing or something that she wanted to post to her followers, but didn't want her parents to know. So she was like, all right, Finsta. And then I'll just like tell all my followers to follow me there, but then I won't let my parents in. And from there, that Finsta grew and grew and grew and grew. And now it's literally driving the majority of her sales. Like it's crazy. Yeah, because if people are in her Finsta, like they love her, they want to be there, they want to see the nitty gritty, the behind the scenes, and those are the people who are going to buy whatever it is you put out and want to support you.
That's so smart. Like it's like really smart, because I think about traditional stuff like build your list or email list and all this sort of stuff, but like build a Finsta, that's hilarious.
I want to end this pod episode off with maybe just like, two questions.
Okay.
One is, do you have any tips for somebody who might be going through a pivotal moment in their life with no end goal in mind? And then two is, what is the best piece of advice that you've gotten from like a mentor or someone you look up to, or like, yeah, just somebody you've met in life?
You know what? Like normally I would give advice, but I think like if there something I'm getting from this like call a lot, just like speaking to you, is like we have a lot in common. And if your followers are anything like me and you, I think the reassurance comes that will be like all the answers will just reveal themselves if you keep on doing the inner work. I really believe that, because if you're on the path of personal growth or self-actualization or anything like that, it's inevitable. Like if you extend the time horizon long enough, it's inevitable that you will like get better, and through experience you'll reflect more and you'll discover what your true purpose is. I truly believe that in the long run. But I think like one of the things I wish for me that I could change is being a little bit more compassionate with myself during that time, and not beating myself up during that time of uncertainty. I don't think it's, for a lot of people, I don't think it's innate to just know what you want at the end of the day. And I think it just comes through experience and through that reflection. You know, it's so funny. I'm like looking at my bookshelf. I see the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I see How to Do the Deep Work by Nicole LaPera, and a bunch of other things too. Shadow work stuff, Brianna Wiest. But the thing that comes to mind, right? I can't think of like something super concrete, like the best advice someone's told me, but the motto I've been really living by is like play long-term games with long-term people. And that for me is like so fulfilling. And I think it goes back to the thing that we're talking about in terms of self-discovery. If you find a long-term game that you just find yourself drawn into and stuff, it's inevitable that you'll pick up tangential skill sets. And if you meet people, it's inevitable that you'll like be successful with whatever you do. Actually, it was really interesting. I was at Mike Kim's mastermind. I'm the youngest there. I'm 36 and I'm the youngest there. All boomers.
Crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was chilling on the like hammock and stuff. We were outside. I was just like looking, we're in the middle of nowhere. And the guy was saying like, Kevin, you actually don't have to be the best at what you do. Majority of people, they'll just drop out. They'll just quit. For one reason or another, life happens, they get bored, something happens. But if you just build a reputation of doing good work, being a good person, by default, by default you'll just win by default just by showing up. I think that's something that I try not to beat myself up over either, is like I'm always trying to be the best. I always beat myself up when I'm not the best and stuff like that. Not because of ego, because of kind of like self-worth and lack a lot of times for myself. Like I'm like my own Asian dad inside my head. So I think that's the thing. Play long-term games with long-term people.
All right. Thank you so much for being on this call with me. And I feel like every time we chat, it just ends up going so long, but it's because we just have a lot in common and we have a lot that we relate on. And it's always such a joy talking to you. So like, seriously, huge thank you.
Thank you for having me. So blessed to be guest number 2. Just like,
First remote guest. Let's see how this goes.
Oh yeah. First remote guest. Yeah. That's But thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed this very raw conversation with Kevin. If you made it this far, I love you. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. And if you did make it this far, go and leave the spicy pepper emoji in the comments wherever you're watching this. I always really enjoy the guest episodes because it means that I'm not just yapping by myself in my room and that I actually get to have a conversation with people. So if there is a specific topic that you want to hear about or a specific guest that you think I should interview, let me know in the comments as well, because I would love to just continue to build on this podcast and create new fun episodes for you. If you want to keep up with me, my Instagram as well as the Feel Good Lab Instagram will be linked in the show notes. But that's all for this week. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you're tuning in from, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.